It's happening. What is it? The intellectual property. If you don't know about this stuff, then you're just dumb. You've been living under a rock in a cave. Maybe you're a space alien. You're dumb. I don't know what else to tell you. Or you're willfully ignorant of the situation. I mean, that alone, they're stealing our stuff, turning around, replicating it, and spitting it back into our own markets.
Yeah, well,
for pennies on the dollar. This trade imbalance with China is one of the key issues. It's literally number 2 on my list of grievances with this country and the things that we need to I'm going to have to bleep out a lot of stuff. I'm not censoring myself tonight. We're going to have to this country. And number 2 is we need to fix the trade deficits. The primary one being with China, which has been, it started out in the early 90s as a $40 billion deficit and has ballooned exponentially every year since. It's gone completely unabated, completely unchecked.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers are stealing our intellectual property. There's no accountability. Countries have followed suit. This stuff has happened in India, Pakistan, Singapore, Taiwan. There's got to be repercussions for an abusive trade relationship like this. It's gone on for 30 years.
Yeah.
And you've got Democrats that are, Trump's going to ruin the economy. No, you ruin the economy. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. These two chuckleheads were in there talking about this in the 90s. There's videos of it floating around here. I'm not going to play it. Just go and look for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find.
Everybody from Dan Bongino to Chris Hinckley over at RBN has played this crap. I'm not going to be a mirror for that. And they're not the only ones.
Yeah.
And this is somehow a surprise to people. Trump's been talking about the tariff issues since before he even thought about the presidency. On the Oprah Winfrey show, BT Dubs, who didn't seem as taken aback on the topic of tariffs back then, but now it's just amazing. And I mean, $40 billion was a lot more money back then. Yeah. Is the other thing. Our currency's been devalued. That's one of the things I wanted to get into tonight. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, when is that going to happen?
I don't see that happen. This process, and I guess we can shift into this now with the tariffs. This is not. I keep hearing the Republicans every time the market goes up. Look what we did. Look what we did. Then the market tanks, and it's like, oh well, that's not us. That's Biden. Just shut the hell up. I know Lutnick and who's the other guy? I can't think of his name. I know these guys have already told Trump, and he has to realize this himself. We are going into a market downturn. How ugly it gets, I don't know, but we are definitely going there. That's on the docket. That's going to happen. Might not be as bad as I think it's going to be, or it could be a lot worse, but it's going to happen unless they chicken out and raise these tariffs. If they do that, they're going to fuck this country over even worse if they just left them on. I am telling you, no one will invest in American business again if they back out of this now. It's too late. I don't think they're going to, but if they do, the damage that they will do being cowards and dropping these tariffs that were rightfully put into place. Yeah, I'm looking for the guy who was talking about we should have 400% tariffs on China. I completely agree. I'm of the stance we need to just cut off all trade with China entirely. It's done. The time for a slow decoupling was almost 10 years ago.
30 years ago. 30 years ago.
Well, that would have been ideal. Yeah. But I'm saying that was probably the cutoff point where we should have done it, and we didn't. Every single president in the last, I don't know, how many has it been since Reagan? 8?
6, 8. Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Every single one of them has dropped the ball on this.
Oh, yeah.
And every senator and congressperson that let this continue as well.
Well, and that's the problem is these congressmen and senators have been in for how long? How old is Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, and Pelosi and Chucky Schumer were both in office when this started. What'd they do about it? I mean, Nancy gave a great speech. So did Chuck Schumer. I can't believe I'm saying that about these two snakes in human costumes, but it's the truth, at least on this one topic.
This says Texas House. I've been hearing rumors that the DOJ has opened an investigation into a Texas bank tied to at least a dozen members of the Texas House. That's a rumor, but so that would be that would be interesting to see. Another example of our how our government actually works.
We've all known this crap is going on. It's just gotten easier to spot.
Well, it wasn't. I I don't know. It wasn't as obvious in Texas until now. They're working towards more larger government. What? We've just gone through this, and you're going the opposite direction of what the government, what the people said.
This is part of the plan. This continuous pressure to push this agenda forward requires allegiance at the state level because they wanted to, and they still do. They want to break America down into super regions.
Right.
Think of the FEMA regions. That's why the No Agenda guys always bring that up. So did
Yeah.
Alex Jones.
Yeah.
They want to break us down into, like, balkanize us, basically.
Yeah.
That's what the smart city agenda is about. That's what the strong cities network is all about. This is
They,
also why you've got, little cultural hyperbaric chambers like Deerfield, Illinois, where they're just, you got your own little Muslim outcropping up there. Like, nothing could possibly go wrong there.
yeah. Right.
That's what they want to do to the entirety of America. That's why they shipped in all these diverse people from all corners of the world.
But can you see Texas going to small cities?
Absolutely. That would be a pipe dream for these globalist nut jobs. If they could break Texas down into one or two smaller, two or three smaller states, they would cream themselves over that. And I think that's the goal. If we can split Texas down between Dallas and Houston and Austin, great. The more divided we are, the easier we are to control. They're gonna F around and find out on this.
I think
Because
so, yeah.
the Texas independence movement has still been growing. I listened to the entire show when John had the founder of the Texas independence movement on there. I wish I could find that episode. It was solid gold. These people are not joking. It's not a joke. There is a way to secede from the Union. They try to poo-poo it and make you sound like a nut job, but this has happened before. Why do you think the states were formed in the first place? Wasn't exactly a manual for it at the time. They keep pushing this crap, man. It is going to get ugly fast. You're going to have people in handcuffs getting escorted out of courtrooms. This crap cannot continue. Or, the alternative, the stuff you can't say on the internet, we're adults here, fill in the blanks. I did a video earlier this week. Do you think Luigi Mangione is do you think that happened in a vacuum?
No.
I got a feeling there's other stuff like that going on that's not getting the same publicity. And this is a very ugly direction for this country to go in.
Well, supposedly there are changes that are going to happen. It's going to take some time. I understand our president cannot make everything happen overnight, but maybe there is a light down into the tunnel. It just may be a very long, dark tunnel.
Good analogy is America's place in the world post World War II. And what did America do? We had the Bretton Woods Agreement, and we basically helped rebuild the world.
Yeah,
we had pumped the American industrial machine into 200x and helped rebuild the world, and we were the beneficiaries of that for a long time.
Yeah, my dad had a real problem with that because he had been in so many countries during the war. He'd seen the destruction, and he said it was too expensive for us to be spending the money to be rebuilding these countries. They should be doing it for themselves. And I just don't understand why we spent so much money. I understand, war-torn areas, but it just took so much away from America we started to see it happening in the 70s when everything went so bad, and we continued. We still continue to spend money. I mean, look at the stuff that Doge is finding. We're spending money to countries that we don't need to be spending money on, and we're still sending money to the Taliban every week, I think it was.
I'm
Um,
not I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but we're talking about two different things here.
Sorry.
What I'm getting at is we helped rebuild the world. We just so happened, hey, what a coincidence. We just so happened to have this huge industrial monster that we pumped up to 11 during the course of the war.
Yeah.
Everybody else's country was pretty much bombed to shit,
Yeah.
and we helped it get that way. If the Germans didn't, or the Japanese, or the Italians,
Yeah. I was thinking of the Italians, but
like we were the beneficiaries of that because we had the infrastructure left over, and we had the political clout. This was the beginnings of the formation of the United Nations, what would later become the UN. You had the League of Nations before that failed. By the way, they tried to get Germany in there too.
yeah,
Hitler was a huge proponent of the League.
right.
Anyways, I'm drawing that as an analogy between where China is on the world stage right now. They have positioned themselves like America circa World War II or post World War II.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where I see them at, and it's not just the United States, but we are their biggest consumer
Competitor. Well, consumer, yes. Yeah.
competitor. Dude, we haven't been a competitor with China for decades.
Years, yeah.
You know, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, we still made stuff here in America. It was expensive.
Yeah, well,
We still made stuff here.
yeah,
That's good.
I remember getting products that were made in, Michigan or some of the upper states. But yeah, you're right.
So what, and that's hence the name of this stream.
Trading places. I was curious about that.
We have traded places. I don't know if you'd call it hot potato or what, but it was America and then it was China, and we're trying to, I guess, by force of tariff and trade policy, muscle our way back onto the I don't know, the global stage.
The playing field. No, I was just going to say we've not been playing the game for quite a while.
Well, we've not been playing the game. You need industry to do this. You need corporations.
Well, but they taxed the states, and the federal taxed all the companies out of the United States.
That's not the tax that's doing the damage. It's the competition. You cannot compete with China's free 99 labor cost. You can't.
No.
Until we get full automation rollout, and even then, you've got to have the buy-in to get that going.
But the problem is, they have made it so expensive that you can't have a low wage like China has. Those people are working for pennies on the dollar, and our people are expecting $25, $35 an hour to work at Burger King, flipping burgers.
Yeah. I think it was the Ford versus Dodge case, which was something I just heard about yesterday. I think Jimmy Dore brought it up, where apparently Ford was offering all this money to their employees and got sued because all of the good employees were leaving. I don't know if it was Dodge or another company. It's a real court case.
Right.
They were leaving other companies to come work for Ford because they were getting paid a crap ton of money.
Well, and that's, I'm sure, not the only court case that probably appeared, because that was kind of a common thing in probably the 80s and early 90s because it was so competitive. But the money was there. I mean, we still had companies that were making money. We just slowly got to the point where it didn't happen anymore.
The history of America is rife with corporations using any means necessary to push worker wages down as low as humanly possible.
Yeah, and it's back to that meme that we talked about before. It's, oh, what's going to happen, with Janet's job? Well, I'm going to give that to, her duties to Ruby. She's not going to get any more money, but I'm getting a raise. They're pushing more and more off on the individuals that they still have working.
Yes.
but they're not hiring anymore. They do not replace people when they leave.
I've heard it from multiple different streamers on YouTube. Millennial Steam, Deconstructing Narcissism,
I've heard it from
tons,
people actually losing their job.
yeah, tons of other people, and it's not just happening in the States either, but in particular in the States, a lot of companies are doing hiring freezes right now, or they're
Yeah,
like you just said, they're they'll fire usually guys that are making a good amount of money, and then they'll dump their job onto like three more jobs onto one person's lap, and well, you want to keep your job, you better just suck it up and do it. Other
right.
duties as assigned, bitch.
Yeah, and the benefits are getting lower. We're going to give
What
you.
benefits?
Well, most still offer some kind of insurance, but the insurance that they offer pays nothing, and your deductible is so high you can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly. I was offered that. This was the first job in a long time where I was offered medical benefits, and I was looking over it with the other guys, and there's no way. I mean, yes, I can technically afford it, but this on top of the doctor's walk-in note and
Yes,
prescriptions and
yes,
the copay.
uh-huh.
Hell no! If I ever had to use it, I'd bankrupt myself.
Right, absolutely. I talked to someone just recently that got a new job, was offered the insurance, and I talked to her and I said, "You need to look really close at what this insurance takes care of." And she did, and she was like, "I'm appalled because it pays nothing. I paid less not having insurance than I would on their plan for copays for medicine. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I do not understand these insurance companies. What the hell are they doing to the American people?"
it's a scam. It's like everything else in this country. But yeah, getting back to
China.
The China situation. China. That situation, I had a feeling the other countries were going to come to the negotiating table. So I mean, it might be time to start leaning on some of our other trade partners a little bit more, especially if they want to loosen up some trade restrictions and financial and non-financial barriers. I'm all for it. I'll buy a TV made in Britain. I'm
Oh
cool with
hell
that.
yeah. Oh hell yeah.
And give some of these other countries a fucking chance to build up their industry too while we're at it, so we can have some actual competition again. Remember that?
Well, not so much in my lifetime, but yeah.
I mean, you want solidly made products. Typically, where do you buy them from? America, Germany, and Japan. And I mean,
Well, if
growing
you
up,
can get them, yeah. And Germany's getting a little sketchy right now. I'm sorry, but I'm not really sure their products are that well made. I've had a
being
couple of products from them, and I was very disappointed. But
they've
I
probably
know
gotten.
the United States is not any better. It's so expensive, but I mean, you gotta, you need to buy the warranty because it's guaranteed it's probably going to break.
So I have heard that Amazon has issued freezes on resupplies from China.
Yeah,
As far as I know, that's still in effect. I've not been on Amazon. I keep meaning to go on there, and it's been it's been dead until it's not, and then it's fucking insane. And
yeah.
so I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty stressful for me because we'll leave it there, but I know I'm not the only person. And the other thing that really that I'm worried about is that not just corporate media. Corporate media is bad enough. They're gonna lie. They're gonna gaslight. They've been doing it for I don't know, probably since 2015 at this rate, or 9/11. But
Well,
the corporate the employer side and also from the customer side is we're going to start getting hit with we got to raise our prices because the tariffs,
yeah,
even on stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with tariffs.
yeah.
And I think that's what probably happened to you with all them bills. And I wouldn't be surprised if I start seeing that shit over here too. I went to go buy a pair of socks, well, a pack of socks rather,
Yeah.
from Amazon the day before the first tranche of tariffs came down. They were $14 in my cart. Went to go check out the next day after they hit. They were $20,
Wow.
and that was before it went up to 9,000% or wherever we're at now.
Right. Well, I was going to say I bought some products on Amazon probably 2 weeks ago now. Those products were still Chinese products.
Well, they still have these fulfillment centers get chock full of stuff, so they'll have it here and they can do the 1 day delivery.
Yeah.
So they've still got probably.
Well, they just weren't one day because of where I live. But yeah, I understand. They still have quite a bit of stock that's still going to be there for a little while. But I mean, the prices, I can't say the prices were reasonable. They were a little higher than I expected for what I got, but I don't, I didn't see. I probably need to go back right now and look at the same products and see what the prices are
I'm telling you, you
after
better.
the tariffs because they're probably way outrageous.
Yeah, you better. You might actually be better off going to a brick and mortar store right now.
But I went to the doctor not too long ago, and I think maybe I talked about this, but he asked me about a particular medication that I'm supposed to be on, and I said, I can't afford it. It's $300, and Medicare does not pay for that.
Yeah.
And he just kind of looked at me and he said, "Well, maybe you can get on Medicaid." No, I can't. I've tried. So, I mean, medications, and I've talked to someone recently, well, as a matter of fact, multiple individuals. The medications that we've been getting from China, I don't think are the real medications that they're supposed to be because they do not do the things that they're supposed to be doing. It's like they're giving placebos, or maybe it's a lower grade medicine. I don't know, but it's the stuff's not working.
It comes down to is what's the repercussions for damaging a patient or not fulfilling their end of the deal on the prescriptions or the products. And like this guy, I'm going to play this guy's clip here in a second. Like this guy gets into we can't really operate in their courts like we do in the EU or in the States. They're pretty much above the law. And if they do get hit by the law, it's years and years later.
Yeah.
We're not playing. It's a stacked deck. I'll let this guy do the talking here, and then
Okay.
I think we're gonna wrap up because it's
Okay.
getting late.
We go into a full-scale trade war.
Look, it's really ugly. This president won the election based on reducing costs, but he's enacted the largest tax increase we've seen in over 50 years. And you know who's going to pay the price? American.
I gotta stop this fucking clown right off the bat. Tariffs are not taxes. No matter how many times the corporate media tells you that tariffs are taxes because it raises prices, and it's just like inflation. It's not the same thing. Nobody's saying that China can't lower their prices further. Why don't you send it over for free 99
Yeah.
for real? And you can pay your workers 0 cents an hour.
Right.
We all know you want to do that anyway, so why don't you just go ahead and go the extra mile? Let them eat flat screens.
Well, that's what they're going to do. But yeah, this guy automatically, as soon as he's opened his mouth, I was
Look at his face. He's like a human weasel hybrid.
he is not on the good end of the gene pool.
Yeah, I was this guy on the spectrum or something. I don't want to be rude. We wouldn't want to be rude. The Internet Complaint Department.
Go ahead.
Weird.
Shopping at Walmart, Americans shopping at Costco. We don't know the purpose of these tariffs. The only thing we do.
Oh, we're not going to get through this, are we? We don't know the purpose of these tariffs. Okay, let me skip over this guy. We're never finishing this.
Yeah, we're never going to get through.
When does he stop running this stupid fucking... Is he still talking? He's got that idiotic smug on his...
Percent. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by.
No. Yeah. Very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in the courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now. I'm not talking about tariffs on
Well, I hear you, but hold on.
I don't know who this guy is, but I loved it.
Kevin is a very solid businessman. He understands a lot about trade agreements because he's dealt with a lot of different companies overseas. He is one of the judges on Shark Tank. So, I mean, he's very, very, very smart, and I do believe he knows what he's talking about.
He is not the only business person that I've heard this from, and again, run parallel to it myself in some ways. It's happening. What is he? The intellectual property. If you don't know about this stuff, then you're just dumb. You've been living under a rock in a cave. Maybe you're a space alien. You're dumb. I don't know what else to tell you. Or you're willfully ignorant of the situation. I mean, that alone, they're stealing our stuff, turning around, replicating it, and spitting it back into our own fucking markets.
Yeah, well,
for pennies on the dollar. That is almost, I don't know if I could think of a worse kind of theft than that. Let me take a J.R.L. Tolkien novel. I'll wipe out your authorship on it, and then I'll resell it into the market for 99 cents. Do you think? I don't even know where I was going with that analogy, but you get the point.
They're making actual Gibsons, a Chinese Gibson, and it still has the Gibson logo on it. I'm talking about guitars that are actually on par with a Gibson product, and they're selling them for a tenth of the price, literally.
Yeah. Again, child of the 90s, child of the 80s and 90s. I remember salivating over a Fender when I was, yay high. Just imagine that. And then looking into the guitar magazines. What was it? Music Center.
Yeah. Was
the big one. And I used to go on their website early days, and I'd look at the price tag. Man, 250 bones was a lot of fucking money back then. And that was for a starter kit.
Yeah. You can't even begin to start there now.
No, you want to get a Fender now? That'll be $600, please.
Guess where they're made? Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. Or Mexico.
Well, no, the Mexicans are now $1,300.
Great. That's just great.
They used to be in the, when I started looking, they were in the $400 range. And then, recently when I was trying to buy, they were $800, but now they're $1,300. So, yeah.
When I sold my Schecter a few years ago, you know how much I got for that thing? It's
about nothing.
No. I got $800 for it.
Good.
This was at a pawn shop.
Good.
I probably would have got twice that if I had sold it online, but I
Well,
needed what
but
I
I'm
needed.
sure it was probably originally worth quite a bit more.
If I'd have kept it, yeah, it was a collector's item. It just keeps going up. It just wasn't that old of a collector's item.
Well, at the time, yeah. It really kind of hurts me that you sold it. Yeah.
You're telling me. Still played just as good as the day that I got it.
Oh yeah.
Better actually, because I put nickel strings on it.
Yeah.
It's the bee's knees.
Well, and because it got warmer as the wood aged, so it actually became a better guitar. But yeah, I mean, the products now are just it's crazy because China literally is ripping off our products. They're making the same product and they're actually replicating it enough so that it looks like the same product.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, they don't call it a replica, they have the actual the Gibson name on these guitars or whatever guitar they're selling. But that happens to be the ones that are major sellers right now. But yeah, I mean, every product they're taking and they're making for a much lower price. They're importing, and they're making a fortune off of it.
Yes. And they're using Amazon and more recently Temu as vehicles.
Oh my God.
As vehicles. And people have not seen. I just did. I haven't released that episode yet. Yeah, Alibaba for the resellers.
Yeah.
But people don't understand. I gotta put this episode out where I break down what's going on with Amazon. It's a casino and a marketing scheme, is what it is. It's a giant. Amazon doesn't make its money from. I mean, they do make money from product sales. They take a cut out of that, but they make the bulk of their money off of marketing that sellers pay for, and advertisers. That's where they make their money from. If you ever see the storefront side of using Amazon, it is a fucking nightmare. Just like editing this podcast is going to be. There's layers upon layers of marketing to it. It's insane. And you have Louis Rossman has gone into this in a lot more detail than I'm about to, but you will have storefronts for factories over in China. They're selling their stuff and redistributors and sales teams and whatnot. These are all state-run corporate elements over in China running 200-man teams for marketing for their products, just doing bids and experiments and you name it. And if they say they got a bad product or something like that and a brand name gets a bad name to it on the platform, they'll just delete the store and fire up a new brand name.
Yeah.
That's why you see all these, Zuzdadoes or Caputer Booba for the brand name. Because you've got some pissed off marketing guy over there that just punches the keyboard because this is the 90th time they've had to rebrand their store.
Yeah.
And they're buying social proof, which is apparently legal and ethical. I don't know what all goes into that. They're buying reviews for their products. Nothing you see is real anymore.
Well, and there's a big market for those reviews. There are banks of phones that basically are running bots. And yeah, you can pay a certain price to get your products reviewed, so many times. And it's just insane that we allow this to happen.
It's just, it's the scale of the pay to win game that's happening, because Amazon is pay to win. I mean, you still have to have a product to sell, despite, all the, I don't know, I won't go off into that. You still have to have a product to sell that's halfway decent.
I'm going to set up a store and I'm going to sell air guitars.
Might as well. Somebody's thought of that.
I know I've seen it before. So
And what? Okay, I just derailed myself. The
sorry.
As a seller, regardless of what country you're from, but here in the States in particular, you're not competing with Chinese brands. You're competing with the Chinese state. That's what it comes down to. You cannot outmarket them unless you're an established brand. And some of those guys are having problems now too. Have been. Whatever happened to Sears? Whoops, that went away.
JC
Where's
Penney.
J.C. Penney? Where's Radio Shack? Oopsie,
Yeah.
that wasn't an accident. If it wasn't for the trade imbalance, we'd probably still have Radio Shack today. Probably still have. They'd probably be even bigger. They'd probably be the size of Walmart
Well,
by now.
and I bought a lot of Radio Shack products, and they were American made. And I mean,
Yep. RCA.
yeah. What happened to those?
They're online only, and they're probably getting all their shit made in China. Let me see if I can pull it up, just so people won't believe me. I think I showed my buddy this a while ago, and he's like, "What?" Yeah, here it is. And there's Google trying to get my precise location. No.
Yeah, they're getting more and more invasive.
Okay.
I've just given in. At this point, everything is just take every bit of my information. You already have it anyway.
I don't need to share audio. There we go.
Wow.
Hey.
Wow.
And kind of looks like Temu.
Yeah.
Just saying. And they got the little egg there too. That's.
But you know, they used to have a warehouse and a distributing center in Dallas that was huge. I had a family member that used to actually work in the distributing. Whatever happened to Texas Instruments?
Well, they're still around.
You don't ever see anything by them.
Radio Shack brand.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you anything.
I know. I don't think there's anything legally requiring you to put where something's made in the online stuff, but you have to put it on the packaging and the.
Honestly, you look
itself.
at that product. What does it look like it came from?
China.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Maybe Taiwan, maybe Singapore or Thailand, if I'm being generous, but probably China. And even if it is from Singapore or Thailand, they probably source their freaking materials from China.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where everybody goes.
Rule of thumb is this, folks. If it doesn't say where the stuff was manufactured, it was made in China. Because they don't want to say it. If it was made in America, they'd have it in 50-foot tall neon letters all over the place. Made in America. There'd be a sticker here, on the front, on the back, over here, up top, over here somewhere. They'd have its own thumbnail.
Okay. Going back to the guitar and specifically Fender, those American-made guitars that they so blatantly, push, this is an American-made guitar, supposedly are made in California. The parts are actually made in Mexico, shipped to California, and they were assembled at the factory there in California. But don't tell me that's an American-made product, because it's not.
This is where we're going to find out. Americans are going to find out how the sausage is really made when supply chains start breaking.
Oh, they're already starting to break.
Yeah, I went through this. There's so many different terms. I want to use one of them right now just as an example, but again,
You can't.
I'd give away too much information, but there's all these legal terms, but I'll give you the key one. It's called substantial transformation. And that's how these companies are able to get away with putting Made in America stickers on their stuff. Just look it up. It's a legal trade term. Look it up on the Google verse and you'll find it. But basically, what it boils down to is as long as something was substantially transformed from whatever parts or materials that were provided from a foreign country, the source of origin becomes wherever it was substantially transformed. Ta-da! It's magic. Except all that magic goes away when you take away the supply chain with the slave labor on the other end of it. Oops! And that is what America is about to find out. Now, I don't know what the deal is with Mexico. Actually, I heard they make they make some pretty good guitars down there.
They do. They are on par with what has been made in the United States. I've got a couple that are just as good as the American made, but again, I mean, you run into the issue that there may be some little part that's not exactly the same.
I don't have a problem trading with our southern and northern neighbors. I don't have a problem with that at all. They had the agricultural stuff with Canada was just abysmal, but you know what? We don't need to be buying our food and dairy from Canada. We can make that stuff here. We got our own ranches and our own farms.
No, the ranches and farmers are being taxed out of business.
Well, that's what needs to change then.
And unfortunately, a lot of those ranchers and farmers have sold their land to guess who?
Mr. Gates?
No, China.
That needs to be outlawed too.
A lot of those farmers, I know for a fact, have sold to Chinese corporations.
Probably didn't even know it.
The land is just sitting there. I don't know what they're doing with it, but they own it.
I'm betting these guys got an English-looking and speaking closer that does the paper signage, so they don't know that's what's happening too.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I mean, Tulsi is very on top of that and saying we need to stop this.
Yeah, they need to outlaw foreign people from owning land in this country. Maybe let them rent stuff, an apartment or something, but not own and not own to rent to other people. No, no, that needs to stop. That's part of the reason why rent and housing prices jacked up too, in and above the dollar being messed around with.
Yeah. My dad told me.
Vanguard.
My dad told me when I was young, the only thing, son, that they're never going to make any more of is land. Yeah. So if you're going to invest, you need to invest in land. And now we're selling our land to other countries. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah. That we never should have opened that door. That was a mistake. Most countries don't even do that. Unless you get citizenship in that country, you can't buy land there. Most other countries are that way. You think you can go to Saudi Arabia and buy land? You're not a citizen there? Good luck. Yeah. Somebody's going to be, oh, actually, you can't. Well, that's not the point. It's not the point. It shouldn't be that way. Man, it's bad enough when you've got countries. Ever since the 2012 migration hordes moved out across Europe, things have just gone downhill for them.
Yeah.
That's what happens with migration. The corporate migration is an issue too. You know, we're not just talking about the barbarian hordes. We're also talking about the barbarians in suits with lots of money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can't fix stupid.
No. Yeah.
I don't know who thought that that was a good idea. Oh, we're going to get some foreign investors in here and it's going to be great. No, they rent the land and it's on a lease and it's got to be re-upped. And if we find out you're doing something that's against our national interest, your lease doesn't get renewed.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Either that or get your citizenship and you stay here. And that's it. And you pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and yada, 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 yada.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't need to hear another one of these. We're